Introduction. 22-year-old Emily always felt like time was slipping through her fingers. In the bustling city of Tempest, where every citizen wore a personal timepiece that showed not just the hour, but the quality of time spent, Emily's watch face was often clouded with wasted minutes and missed opportunities. One particularly frazzled morning, as she rushed to her dead-end job at the local coffee shop, the daily grind, Emily stumbled upon an old, dusty book in a hidden alley. Its title glimmered in the early light, The Clockmaker's Guide to Mastering Time. Intrigued, she tucked it into her bag, unaware that this mysterious tome would change her life forever. As Emily began to apply the book's wisdom to her daily routine, she noticed subtle shifts. Her timepiece grew clearer, her days more purposeful. But it wasn't until she met the enigmatic owner of the antique clock shop next door, a silver-haired woman known only as the Clockmaker, that Emily's journey truly began. With the book as her guide and the Clockmaker as her mentor, Emily embarked on an extraordinary adventure of self-discovery and time mastery. Follow Emily as she navigates love, career, and personal growth, all while unraveling the secrets of time itself. Will she unlock the power to shape her destiny, or will the relentless tick-tock of life's clock defeat her? Turn the page and step into a world where every second counts, quite literally. Your own journey to mastering time starts now. Chapter 1. The Ticking Town. Emily's alarm blared, its insistent beeping cutting through her dreams. She groaned, fumbling for her phone, and squinted at the screen. 7:45 a.m. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she had exactly 15 minutes to get to work. Not again, she muttered, stumbling out of bed. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet, a symphony of protest that matched her mood. As she rushed through her morning routine, Emily caught glimpses of herself in the mirror. Messy hair, dark circles under her eyes, a general air of chaos that seemed to follow her everywhere. Outside, Tempest was already alive with activity. The great clock tower at the center of town chimed 8 times, its deep resonance felt in the very cobblestones. Emily winced. She was officially late. As she sprinted down the street, she couldn't help but notice how everyone else seemed so put together. Their timepieces gleamed on their wrists, faces clear and bright. Emily glanced at her own. The face was foggy, the hands sluggish, a physical manifestation of her shattered life. She burst into the daily grind just as her manager, Tim, was flipping the closed sign to open. Cutting it close again, Emily, he said, his disapproval evident in the set of his shoulders. I'm so sorry, Tim. It won't happen again, Emily promised, knowing even as the words left her mouth that it was a lie. The morning rush hit like a tidal wave. Emily found herself swept up in a flurry of coffee orders, pastry selections, and increasingly impatient customers. Time seemed to stretch and contract unpredictably. One moment, she was taking an order, and the next an hour had passed in the blink of an eye. It wasn't until her lunch break that Emily remembered the book she'd found. Curious, she pulled it from her bag. The Clockmaker's Guide to Mastering Time seemed to glow faintly in her hands. She opened it to the first page. Time is not a river that flows by us, but an ocean in which we swim. To master time is to master life itself. Emily frowned, puzzling over the words. She was about to read more when Tim's voice broke through her reverie. Break's over, Emily. We got customers waiting. With a sigh, she tucked the book away and returned to work. But as the day wore on, she found her thoughts returning to those enigmatic words. What did it mean to master time? And why did she feel, for the first time in years, a glimmer of hope? As she left work that evening, the sun setting behind the clock tower, Emily made a decision. She would read the book, really read it, and see where it led her. After all, what did she have to lose? Little did she know, as she walked home through the ticking town, that her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Exercise. Time awareness journal. Before we continue Emily's journey, take a moment to reflect on your relationship with time. For the next week, keep a journal noting how you spend your hours. Be honest. Record both productive moments and time wasted. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I swim in the ocean of time today, or did its currents sweep me away? Your insights might surprise you. Chapter 2. Gears of Intention. The next morning, Emily woke before her alarm. For once, the panic didn't set in. Instead, a curious sense of anticipation filled her. She reached for the mysterious book on her nightstand, its leather cover cool against her fingers. As she read, the world around her seemed to fade away. The book spoke of intentions, of aligning one's actions with one's deepest values. It challenged her to consider what truly mattered to her, not just what seemed urgent. Your intentions are the gears that drive the clockwork of your life. One passage read. Choose them wisely, and your days will tick with purpose. Emily glanced at her foggy timepiece. Had she ever really thought about what she wanted from life? Or had she just been reacting, day after day, to whatever came her way? Lost in thought, she almost didn't notice the time. But today, instead of rushing, she moved with deliberate calm. She chose her clothes carefully, ate a proper breakfast, and even had time to brew a cup of tea. As she locked her apartment door, she noticed her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chun, struggling with some grocery bags. "Let me help you with those," Emily offered, surprising herself. Mrs. Chin's face lit up. "Oh, thank you, dear. I've lived here for 5 years, and this is the first time we've spoken." Emily felt a pang of guilt, quickly followed by a warm sense of connection. As they chatted, she realized she was going to be late for work. But for once, it didn't feel like a disaster. At the daily grind, Tim raised an eyebrow at her tardiness, but said nothing as Emily launched into her work with newfound energy. Throughout the day, she found herself pausing before each task, asking herself, is this aligned with what matters to me? Sometimes the answer was yes. Like when she took extra care to perfect a customer's complicated order, seeing it as an opportunity to bring a moment of joy to someone's day. Other times, it was no, like when she caught herself about to dive into office gossip during her break. As closing time approached, Emily noticed a silver-haired woman peering through the window of the antique clock shop next door. Their eyes met, and the woman smiled, a knowing twinkle in her eye. Emily felt a strange pull, as if the woman knew something about her, about time itself. That night, as Emily sat down to journal, she realized something profound. For the first time in years, she felt like she was steering her own ship, not just being tossed about by the waves of life. She picked up her timepiece and gasped. The fog had begun to clear, ever so slightly, from its face. Exercise, values clarification, and daily intention setting. Before we continue with Emily's journey, take some time to clarify your own values. What truly matters to you? List your top 5 values. Then, for the next week, set a daily intention based on one of these values. Each morning, ask yourself, how can I align my actions today with what I value most? At the end of each day, reflect on how this intention influenced your choices and experiences. Chapter 3. The Pendulum of Priority. Emily's newfound sense of purpose was put to the test as she walked into the daily grind. A line of impatient customers snaked out the door, and Tim was frantically trying to manage the chaos. "Emily, thank goodness. The espresso machine is acting up. We're out of soy milk, and Mrs. Hawthorne is asking for her usual special latte." Tim rattled off, his timepiece a blur of frantic movement. In the past, this scenario would have sent Emily into a panic. But today, she took a deep breath and remembered the book's words. The pendulum of priority swings between what is urgent and what is important. True mastery lies in knowing the difference. She quickly assessed the situation. The espresso machine was urgent and important. It affected all orders. She tackled that first, remembering a trick her old colleague had taught her. Within minutes, it was purring smoothly. Next, she sent Tim to get soy milk from the store across the street. Urgent, but not as important as keeping the line moving. As for Mrs. Hawthorne's special latte, Emily knew it could wait. It was important for customer satisfaction, but not urgent. As she worked, Emily found herself in a state of flow. Time seemed to slow down, yet she accomplished more than ever. Customers who had entered grumpy left with smiles, touched by her calm efficiency. During her break, she pulled out the book again. Prioritization is not about doing everything, it read. It's about doing the right things at the right time. She glanced up and noticed the silver-haired woman from the clock shop watching her through the window. The woman nodded approvingly, then disappeared into her store. Curiosity piqued, Emily decided to visit the clock shop after a shift. As she approached, she noticed the sign, Chronos Timepieces, where every second counts. The bell tinkled as she entered, and she found herself surrounded by clocks of all shapes and sizes. Some ticked in perfect synchronization. Others seemed to march to their own beat. "Welcome," came a voice from the back. The silver-haired woman emerged, her eyes twinkling. "I've been expecting you, Emily." Emily startled. "How do you know my name?" The woman smiled mysteriously. "I'm Adelaide, the Clockmaker, and I know many things about time, and those who seek to master it." As Adelaide spoke, Emily felt a shift in the air, as if time itself was bending around them. "You've begun to understand intention," Adelaide said, "and now you're learning priority. But there's so much more to time mastery." She picked up a peculiar clock with multiple hands moving at different speeds. Life isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what matters most. Each tick is a choice, each talk an opportunity. Emily left the shop that evening with her head spinning, clutching a small, ornate clock Adelaide had gifted her. "Use it wisely," Adelaide had said with a wink. That night, as Emily set her intentions for the next day, she felt a new sense of clarity. The fog on her timepiece lifted a little more, revealing intricate gears she'd never noticed before. Exercise. Eisenhower matrix for task prioritization. Before we continue Emily's journey, let's practice prioritization. Create a 2x2 grid. Label the columns urgent and not urgent, and the rows important and not important. For the next week, place each of your tasks into one of these 4 quadrants. Urgent and important. Do these tasks immediately. Important but not urgent. Schedule these tasks. Urgent but not important. Delegate these if possible. Not urgent and not important. Eliminate these tasks if you can. At the end of each day, reflect on how this method affected your productivity and stress levels. Chapter 4. Winding the Focus Spring. Emily stared at the ornate clock Adelaide had given her, its intricate gears visible through a crystal face. As she wound it, she felt a strange sensation, as if she were winding up her own inner mechanisms. The next day at the daily grind started normally, but Emily soon noticed a difference. Every time she glanced at Adelaide's clock, sitting discreetly by the cash register, she felt a surge of focus. It was as if the clock was gently pulling her attention back whenever it started to wander. However, this newfound focus was quickly put to the test. The cafe was busier than ever, with a constant stream of customers and a cacophony of milk steamers, blenders, and chatter. Emily found herself struggling to maintain her concentration. She kept making small mistakes, mixing up orders, forgetting to ask for names, spilling milk. Her personal timepiece, which had been getting clearer, started to fog up again. During her break, she pulled out the Clockmaker's Guide and flipped to a chapter titled Winding the Focus Spring. Focus is not about eliminating distractions, it read. It's about choosing where to direct your attention. Like a tightly wound spring, a focused mind has potential energy waiting to be released. As she pondered these words, the door chimed. Emily looked up to see Adelaide entering the cafe, her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight. "Struggling with focus, my dear?" Adelaide asked, her eyes twinkling. Emily nodded, feeling a mix of frustration and embarrassment. Adelaide smiled kindly. "Focus isn't about forcing your mind into submission. It's about gently guiding it back, like a shepherd with a wandering lamb." She picked up the ornate clock and wound it slowly. "Watch the second hand," she instructed. "For the next minute, every time your mind wanders, simply notice it and bring your attention back to the ticking." Emily did as she was told. At first, her thoughts bounced around like popcorn in a hot pan. But each time she noticed her mind wandering, she gently brought it back to the steady tick-tock. As the minute ended, Emily felt a sense of calm clarity she'd never experienced before. "That's the power of focused attention," Adelaide said. "Now, try bringing that same gentle awareness to your work." For the rest of her shift, Emily practiced this technique. When she noticed her mind wandering, she didn't berate herself. Instead, she acknowledged the distraction and gently redirected her focus to the task at hand. To her amazement, Not only did she make fewer mistakes, but time seemed to flow differently. Hours passed in what felt like minutes, yet she accomplished more than she ever had before. As she was closing up the shop, Tim approached her. "I don't know what's gotten into you lately, Emily, but keep it up. You've been on fire." Emily smiled, glancing at the ornate clock. Its gears seemed to wink at her in the fading light. That night, as she wound Adelaide's clock, Emily realized that focus wasn't about eliminating all distractions. It was about choosing what to pay attention to moment by moment. As this thought crystallized, she noticed her personal timepiece glowing brighter, its ticking more resonant than ever before. Exercise. Pomodoro technique practice. Before we continue with Emily's journey, let's practice the Pomodoro technique to enhance focus. Choose a task you need to complete. Set a timer for 25 minutes and work on the task with full concentration. When the timer rings, take a 5-minute break. Repeat this cycle 4 times, then take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. During each Pomodoro, if you notice your mind wandering, gently bring it back to the task at hand. At the end of the day, reflect on how this technique affected your productivity and focus. Chapter 5. The Hourglass of Energy. As weeks passed, Emily found herself settling into a new rhythm. Her focus had improved dramatically, and she was accomplishing more than ever before. Yet something still felt off. Some days she buzzed with energy, effortlessly tackling tasks and radiating positivity. Other days, she felt like she was wading through molasses, each task requiring Herculean effort. One particularly sluggish morning, Emily dragged herself to the daily grind. As she fumbled with the keys, she noticed a small package leaning against the door. Inside was an exquisite hourglass, its sand a swirling mix of vibrant colors. A note was attached. Time and energy flow as one. Puzzled, Emily set the hourglass on the counter next to Adelaide's clock. As she worked, she found her eyes drawn to the colorful sand trickling down. Strangely, the colors seemed to shift throughout the day, sometimes bright and rapid, other times slow and muted. During a lull, Emily pulled out the Clockmaker's Guide and found a chapter titled The Hourglass of Energy. Energy, like time, is not infinite, it read. But unlike time, energy can be renewed. The secret lies in understanding your personal energy rhythms and aligning your tasks accordingly. As she pondered this, the cafe door chimed. Adelaide walked in, looking as sprightly as ever. "I see you've received my gift," she said, nodding at the hourglass. "Have you noticed how its flow changes?" Emily nodded, describing the shifting colors and speeds she'd observed. Adelaide smiled. "That hourglass reflects your energy levels. When the sand flows quickly and brightly, your energy is high. When it's slow and dull, your energy is low. The key is to match your tasks to your energy levels." She went on to explain how everyone has natural energy cycles throughout the day. Some people are morning larks, others night owls. Some have an afternoon slump, others an evening surge. But it's not just about when, Adelaide added. Different tasks require different types of energy. Creative work might energize you, while repetitive tasks drain you. The art is in learning to read your own energy patterns and plan accordingly. For the rest of the week, Emily paid close attention to her energy levels, noting when she felt most alert and productive and when she felt drained. She started scheduling her most challenging tasks for her high-energy periods and using her low-energy times for simpler, more routine work. To her amazement, not only did her productivity soar, but she also felt more balanced and less exhausted at the end of each day. She even found herself with extra energy for activities outside of work, rekindling old hobbies and spending more quality time with friends. One evening, as Emily was closing up shop, she noticed something extraordinary. The fog on her personal timepiece had lifted almost entirely, revealing a complex mechanism of gears and springs she'd never seen before. And at the heart of it all was a tiny hourglass, its sand flowing in perfect harmony with her energy. As she wound Adelaide's clock that night, Emily realized that mastering time wasn't just about managing minutes and hours. It was about understanding and honoring her own natural rhythms, creating a flow that felt effortless and energizing. She fell asleep that night with a smile on her face, excited to see what new discoveries tomorrow would bring. Exercise. Personal energy audit. Before we continue with Emily's journey, let's conduct a personal energy audit. For the next week, keep a log of your energy levels throughout the day. Rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10 every hour, and note what activities you're doing. Also, pay attention to how different types of tasks affect your energy. At the end of the week, look for patterns. When are your energy peaks and troughs? Which activities energize you, and which drain you? Use this information to restructure your day, matching high-energy tasks with your peak times and low-energy tasks with your troughs. Reflect on how this impacts your productivity and overall well-being. Chapter 6. Calibrating for Change. Emily had just settled into her new rhythm when life decided to throw her a curveball. One morning, she arrived at the daily grind to find Tim in a panic. "The health inspector is coming today," he blurted out. "We weren't supposed to have an inspection for months." Emily felt her carefully crafted schedule crumbling. This unexpected visit would disrupt everything she had planned for the day. She glanced at her hourglass, noticing the sand flowing erratically, mirroring her internal chaos. As she scrambled to help Tim prepare, the cafe door chimed. To her surprise, Adelaide walked in, calm as ever. "Ah, I see change has come knocking," Adelaide said, eyeing the frantic activity. "Perfect timing." Emily looked at her incredulously. "Perfect? This is a disaster." Adelaide smiled enigmatically. "Only if you see it that way. Change, my dear, is the only constant in the river of time. The question is, will you be swept away by it or learn to navigate its currents?" She pulled a small compass from her pocket, its needle spinning wildly. Time isn't just about routine and rhythm. It's also about adapting to the unexpected. This compass doesn't point north. It points to where your attention is most needed at any given moment. Throughout the day, Emily used Adelaide's compass to guide her actions. When the health inspector arrived, she found herself smoothly shifting priorities, addressing urgent matters while keeping the cafe running. To her amazement, not only did they pass the inspection, but the day seemed to flow more smoothly than ever. The compass helped her identify what truly needed her attention, allowing her to let go of less critical tasks without stress. That evening, exhausted but exhilarated, Emily consulted the Clockmaker's Guide. She found a chapter titled Calibrating for Change. "The master of time is not one who sticks rigidly to a plan," it read, "but one who can adjust their sails to any wind that blows." Flexibility is the key to resilience in the face of change. As she pondered these words, Emily realized that her previous attempts at time management had been too rigid. She had tried to control time, to bend it to her will. But true mastery, it seemed, lay in learning to dance with time, to move in harmony with its ever-changing rhythms. Over the next few weeks, Emily practiced this new approach. She still planned her days, but held those plans loosely, ready to adjust as needed. She used Adelaide's compass to help her navigate unexpected changes, and found that her productivity actually increased. More importantly, she felt a new sense of calm in the face of uncertainty. Changes that would have once thrown her into a panic now felt like interesting challenges to be solved. One day, as she was closing up shop, she noticed something remarkable about her personal timepiece. The gears, which had always moved in a fixed pattern, now seemed to shift and realign themselves as she watched. It was as if the watch itself was adapting to the changing rhythms of her life. That night, as she wound Adelaide's clock, Emily smiled to herself. She was beginning to understand that mastering time wasn't about controlling it, but about learning to flow with it, to adapt and change as it did. As she drifted off to sleep, she wondered what new lessons tomorrow would bring, excited by the possibilities that lay ahead in the ever-flowing river of time. Exercise, scenario planning, and adaptation strategies. Before we continue with Emily's journey, let's practice adapting to change. Create 3 scenarios that could disrupt your typical day, e.g., an unexpected meeting, a tech failure, a surprise visitor. For each scenario, write down your initial emotional reaction. List 3 ways you could adapt your schedule to accommodate this change. Identify any opportunities that might arise from this disruption. Over the next week, Be mindful of unexpected changes in your day. When they occur, practice using these adaptation strategies. At the end of the week, reflect on how this approach affected your productivity and stress levels. Did you discover any unexpected benefits from these disruptions? Chapter 7. Chiming Success. As autumn leaves began to paint the town in warm hues, Emily found herself reflecting on her journey. She had come so far from the frazzled barista who could barely keep up with the daily grind. Now, she moved through her days with a sense of purpose and flow, adapting to challenges with newfound grace. One crisp morning, as Emily was setting up the cafe, she noticed something odd about Adelaide's clock. Instead of its usual steady tick, it was chiming softly at seemingly random intervals. Puzzled, she leaned in closer. To her amazement, she realized the chimes weren't random at all. They coincided perfectly with moments of accomplishment. A perfectly crafted latte, a genuine connection with a customer, a small task completed efficiently. As if on cue, Adelaide walked in, her silver hair gleaming in the autumn sunlight. "Ah, you've discovered the chimes of success," she said, her eyes twinkling. "It's time for your next lesson." Adelaide explained that while mastering time and energy was crucial, it was equally important to acknowledge and celebrate progress along the way. Success isn't just about reaching big goals, she said. It's about recognizing the small victories that pave the path to those goals. Throughout the day, Emily paid close attention to the gentle chimes. She noticed how they lifted her spirits, motivating her to keep pushing forward. Even on tasks she usually found tedious, the promise of that satisfying chime made her approach them with renewed enthusiasm. That evening, Emily found a new chapter in the Clockmaker's Guide titled The Symphony of Achievement. Each small success is a note, it read. String enough notes together, and you create a beautiful melody of progress. Learn to hear this melody, and you'll find the motivation to keep playing day after day. Over the next few weeks, Emily practiced recognizing and celebrating her small wins. She started keeping a success journal, jotting down 3 accomplishments at the end of each day, no matter how minor they seemed. To her surprise, this simple practice began to shift her entire perspective. Tasks that once felt overwhelming now seemed like a series of achievable steps. She found herself tackling bigger challenges with confidence, knowing that each small victory was bringing her closer to her goals. Her newfound positivity was contagious. Customers commented on the upbeat atmosphere in the cafe, and even Tim seemed more motivated. Emily realized she was no longer just managing her own time. She was creating an environment where others could thrive as well. One day, as she was closing up shop, Emily noticed something extraordinary about her personal timepiece. In addition to its usual ticking, it had started to chime softly, just like Adelaide's clock. Each chime felt like a personal celebration, acknowledging her growth and progress. That night, as she wound Adelaide's clock, Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. She was learning not just to manage time, but to appreciate it, to find joy in each passing moment. As she drifted off to sleep, the gentle chimes of her own timepiece serenaded her, a sweet lullaby of success. She fell asleep with a smile, excited to see what new achievements tomorrow would bring. Exercise. Daily achievements log. Before we continue with Emily's journey, let's practice recognizing and celebrating our own successes. For the next week, keep a daily achievements log. At the end of each day, write down 3 accomplishments, no matter how small they might seem. These could be tasks completed, moments of connection with others, personal insights gained, or any small step towards your larger goals. Additionally, set a gentle reminder on your phone or watch to chime randomly 5 to 7 times throughout the day. When you hear it, take a moment to identify something you've accomplished since the last chime. This could be as simple as responding to an email or showing kindness to a stranger. At the end of the week, review your log. How has this practice affected your motivation and overall outlook? Do you notice any patterns in your achievements? How might you use this awareness to further enhance your productivity and satisfaction in the future? Chapter 8. The Eternal Clockwork. As winter settled over the town, Emily found herself reflecting on her extraordinary journey. The daily grind, once a source of stress and chaos, now ran like a well-oiled machine. More importantly, Emily had discovered a sense of balance and purpose that extended far beyond her work life. One snowy evening, as she was closing up shop, she noticed Adelaide standing outside, gazing up at the great clock tower that loomed over the town square. Emily joined her, shivering slightly in the cold. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Adelaide said, her breath forming small clouds in the frosty air. "But do you know what's truly remarkable about it?" Emily shook her head, curious. "It's not just keeping time," Adelaide continued. "It's telling a story. The story of this town, of all the lives that have been lived within the rhythm of its ticking." Adelaide turned to Emily, her eyes twinkling with a wisdom that seemed as old as time itself. "You've learned so much, my dear. You've mastered intention, focus, energy management, adaptability, and the art of celebrating success. But there's one final lesson, perhaps the most important of all." She produced a small, intricately designed pocket watch from her coat. "This is for you," she said, placing it in Emily's hand. "It's time for you to understand the eternal clockwork." As Emily held the watch, she felt a strange sensation, as if she could sense the flow of time itself. She opened it to find not a standard clock face, but a miniature model of the universe, stars and planets moving in complex, beautiful patterns. "Time isn't just about managing your day or even your life," Adelaide explained. "It's about understanding your place in the grand tapestry of existence. Each moment is a thread, weaving together past, present, and future." Over the next few days, Emily spent hours studying the cosmic watch. She began to see how her actions rippled out, affecting not just her immediate surroundings, but potentially echoing through time in ways she couldn't have imagined. She revisited the Clockmaker's Guide and found a final chapter titled The Symphony of Eternity. It spoke of legacy, of the marks we leave on the world long after we're gone, and of the responsibility that comes with truly understanding time. As she absorbed these lessons, Emily felt a profound shift in her perspective. She began to approach each day not just as a series of tasks to be managed, but as an opportunity to contribute to something greater than herself. She started volunteering at a local youth center, teaching time management skills to struggling students. She initiated a community garden project, planting seeds that would bloom long into the future. Even her interactions at the cafe took on new meaning, as she realized each kind word or thoughtful gesture could set off a chain of positive events. One morning, as the first rays of spring sunshine peeked through her window, Emily looked at her personal timepiece. The fog had completely cleared, revealing a mechanism of breathtaking complexity and beauty. But what struck her most was that it now seemed to tick in perfect harmony with the cosmic watch, with Adelaide's clock, with the great tower in the square, and with her own heartbeat. She realized then that mastering time wasn't an end goal, but a lifelong journey. It was about continual growth, about expanding one's perspective to encompass ever wider circles of influence and understanding. As she headed to the cafe that morning, Emily felt a deep sense of peace and purpose. She was no longer just an apprentice. She had become a clockmaker in her own right, ready to help others find their rhythm in the grand symphony of time. And somewhere, just out of sight, Adelaide smiled, knowing her work was done. Exercise. Long-term vision mapping. As we conclude Emily's journey, let's look towards our own future. Create a vision map for the next 5, 10, and 20 years of your life. For each time frame, identify 3 to 5 major goals or milestones you'd like to achieve. Consider the impact these achievements might have, not just on your life, but on your community and beyond. Write a short paragraph describing what a typical day might look like at each of these future points. Now, working backwards from your 20-year vision, identify small, actionable steps you can take in the next week, month, and year to begin moving towards these long-term goals. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Finally, reflect on how this long-term perspective changes your approach to daily time management. How might you balance immediate needs with long-term aspirations? How can you ensure that your daily actions align with your broader life goals? Epilogue. Timekeeper's legacy. 5 years had passed since Emily's transformative journey began. The daily grind, once a simple cafe, had evolved into a thriving community hub known as Timekeeper's Haven. Here, amidst the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the gentle ticking of various clocks, people from all walks of life gathered to learn the art of time mastery. Emily, now a respected timekeeper in her own right, moved through the space with grace and purpose. Her timepiece, once clouded and sluggish, now gleamed on her wrist, its intricate gears visible through the crystal face, moving in perfect harmony with the cosmic rhythms Adelaide had shown her years ago. The cafe walls were adorned with clocks of all shapes and sizes, each telling a unique story. But the centerpiece was Adelaide's original clock, ticking away steadily, a reminder of where it all began. As Emily prepared for her daily workshop, she smiled at the diverse group gathering around the large communal table. There was Sarah, a young entrepreneur learning to balance ambition with well-being, Mr. Chun, a retiree discovering new purpose in his golden years, and Lisa, a working mother mastering the art of quality time with her family. Just as Emily was about to begin, the cafe door chimed. A frazzled-looking young man burst in, his timepiece a blur of confused motion. "Am I too late?" he panted, looking around desperately. Emily smiled, recognizing her younger self in his harried expression. "You're right on time, Alex," she said warmly. "We were just about to begin." As she guided the group through the principles of intention setting and energy management, Emily felt a familiar presence. She looked up to see Adelaide standing by the window, her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight. Their eyes met, and Adelaide gave a nod of approval before seeming to fade into the bustling street outside. Emily turned back to her eager students, her heart full. She knew that each person she helped was a thread in the grand tapestry of time, their lives interweaving to create a future full of purpose and harmony. As the workshop concluded, Emily wound the cosmic watch Adelaide had given her. Its soft ticking reminded her that while time was ever flowing, each moment held the potential for growth, connection, and positive change. Outside, the great clock tower chimed, its sound resonating through the town. But now, to Emily's ears, it wasn't just marking the hours. It was celebrating the countless stories unfolding within its rhythm, each one a testament to the transformative power of truly mastering one's time. Emily smiled, knowing that her journey as a timekeeper had only just begun. The future stretched out before her, full of possibility, each tick a promise of new adventures to come.